Welcome to Men, Sex, and Tantra.
Discover what your parents, porn, and religion never taught you about being a man and having extraordinary sex. Get ready to have your mind blown and your world rocked. Hello, everybody. We are back. I'm still hanging with Ed. It's Men, Sex, and Tantra, and Ed, and Tanya, and money, and sex. And I just, I don't know what this blowjob thing has been coming out of my mouth a lot. No pun intended there. But it seems to be a topic in everybody's mind since we did that episode. I'm getting a lot of feedback from that. Anyway, so our episode today is a pretty loaded thing. A lot of this stuff we're seeing with the, with the money is, but it's really easy. And I see in so many areas, it's really easy. And I want to see how it lines up in the financial world for people to feel like they're right about something and somebody's wrong. Like maybe it's like, I'm neat, therefore morally I'm right. And, so I'm right because we all aspire to be neat, right? Not
right.
Or, I'm right. Whatever moral high ground, I take care of I pay my taxes on time. So I'm like, right. And if you don't do it, you're not. Yeah. And so how does that, I know that plays a lot into relationships all over the place, but where do you see it really show up in a financial kind of thing?
It's really interesting. I'm glad that you bring up taxes because that's something that shows up a lot for couples. Is tax time, tax management, entrepreneurs. Really? Yeah. Oh God. I was at my son's 6th birthday party at the pool this summer, and one of the kids' moms is an accountant. And so we got talking about my work and her work. And I said, well, what do you see? And she said, you would not believe how many people come in and say, my partner needs to sign this tax document. And she says, legally, yes. And I say, okay.
Oh, so this is a transparency. That's one of those maybe transparency things.
Yes.
Oh.
But it's beneath it is the fear of being judged as right or wrong. Right. Yeah. And so they go off and they sign the tax document for themselves and their partner. Forgery.
Oh.
And then come back and drop off the tax document. So we got a lot going on in that. But our need to be right around money is so endemic and so destructive to the relationship.
Well, because if you're not right, then you're wrong.
That's right. When we're in black and white thinking, when we're in moral good or bad, we're going to be stuck. And so there's a whole body of psychology and probably philosophy that looks at moral development.
Yeah.
And we, as children, we need clear boundaries around what's right or wrong to guide us. Right? Because we don't have complex reasoning as children.
Right.
But as adults, we have complex reasoning. It's part of why we con ourselves and con our partners sometimes on the dark side of things.
Yeah.
Right. But we recognize there's nuance and there's subtlety and what's right or wrong to do financially. And then we layer on this whole layer of social class and social class background differences that a lot of couples show up with. And what people discount is social class is culture. There's not, right? So you're trying to tell somebody that their culture is wrong. You're attacking their identity.
Got it.
So if you're married to someone from a different financial background than yours, they're going to have different attitudes and values about money and how to organize around it.
Yeah, and what to spend it on. And I've seen those clear, because I've lived all over the world, and it's clear to me that every country I've lived in has different values about, how money's handled, how it's spent, what's the right way to do it. Like, well, you can take quinceañeras, for example, like, Absolutely. It's not, you show weddings, same thing, right? The more money you quote unquote, funerals, the more money you spend, the more money you care about the person.
Strong correlation there, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. It's like, you can't bury Uncle John in that coffin. What would that look like? That means we don't care about him, right? Yeah.
That's exactly
wedding dress, the ring.
Oh, right. There's this whole thing about like 3 times your salary for a wedding ring or 6 months. Right? Where the hell did that effing come from? That's not a law.
De Beers.
Oh, of course. I know that, right? Yeah. Right. So what we also lose sight of when we're thinking about money is most money rules that we have are cultural rules. They're not laws of physics.
Okay. All
We
right.
treat it as if our money rules are like the laws of gravity.
All right. All right. So are
Uh,
they're set in stone? Well, more like you said, right or wrong.
they're right. And if that's the way you hold it, then you're stuck.
Well, isn't there a right way? Come on, there's the right way
Well,
to.
there's my right way, Tanya.
I have a right way with my money too.
There's the money world according to Ed. But honestly, really, this has been one of the most liberating things about becoming a financial therapist instead of a financial planner. Because financial planners, for the most part, are being hired to give people a right way to do money.
Okay.
Right? Like you're coming to me, you've got your 401k plan here, your IRA right there, your inheritance, your inheritance over here, blah, 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 blah. And I need it invested so that I can retire. Okay, great. So our investment methodology is XYZ, and we do this and we balance the portfolio, blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay, that sounds great. Do that for me. Well, what happens if you have a real estate investor and the financial planner is saying, well, mutual funds are the best way to create your wealth
Yeah,
long
he's
term.
like, no, not true. Right.
He's like, I've made a shit ton of money in real estate. Like, right. So there's many ways up the money mountain.
Got it.
And as a financial planner, you have a methodology, and I'm not jinxing or attacking that. It's good. That's your service. People want a way to deal with their money, and you have a way. Give it to them. But what I get to do in the world of financial therapy is start to work with couples when they're at odds about how to manage money. So, talking about social class, we're talking about investing, we're talking about money differences, we're talking about letting go of moral certainty,
I like that word. Moral certainty. I'm right, you're wrong.
right?
My
Which
way.
is part of maturing sense of self and safety in the world, is I can handle increasing amounts of ambiguity and difference. And a couple I worked with, he came from a very high net worth family, had been very successful in real estate investing, and now was into options trading. Wife came from a very low income family, had worked very hard and invested conservatively, i.e., a balanced mutual fund portfolio.
Yeah,
And they were,
at odds, right? Not having sex. He's slapping his hands together, but he's not talking about they were having.
thank you. On this
probably
podcast, that's really important. But
they're
they were
not. They're probably not having sex.
no, they weren't. They were also not having sex, right? And it's easy to say it's all the money dynamic, but underneath it was a lot of the mental health and sense of self issues that need to be
Yeah.
resolved, that were causing the rigidity around how we navigate money and what's right or wrong. And part of, for this couple, was his options trading was related to maintaining a connection with his father
Oh, interesting. Okay,
and trying to get his father's approval
got it.
and trying to show that dad, I can manage the money when you
I'm not
die.
irresponsible with money. Right,
I'm
exactly.
not irresponsible with money, right? And so, like, as we started to open that up for him, it helped him start to relax and understand the meaning and purpose behind why he's doing it the way he is and why he needs to keep doing it. So if someone's rigid about how they need to approach money, there are deeper reasons why.
Yeah,
It's not random.
yeah.
It's understandable. But you may need to work with someone that can help you tease some of that out.
But it's easy, and the reason you probably won't get help with that, by the way, is because the society will tell you that you're right. So an instance like taking it out of the money into an instance of right, wrong in relationships, I like things neat and streamlined and clear. That's why I like my house. I do not like clutter. I do not like things like that around. All right. And my partner, we both had our desks in the main room of the house because it had the best view and stuff, right? And he loved tons of his crap, I call crap, out all over his desk, and his shoes, and like several pair of shoes lined up. So he would work in the evenings. He's a computer software developer program, and I would work during the day. So in the evening, in the morning on my way out, when I'd walk in and I'd see all this desk, I would go pick up his shoes and go put them in the room. All right, because I was right, clearly, that things shouldn't be cluttered. Right?
Right.
Well, then one day I thought, I get that I'm sitting in that moral high ground of I'm neat and clean, and that's so how we, whatever it is. I thought I've never been curious why this guy who keeps everything else clean has his shoes lined up around his desk. And so I asked the question, hey, what's up with your shoes all around the desk? And he goes, it brings me such joy. And he had beautiful things. He goes, I love looking at my shoes and my stuff, my rings or whatever is around here. And he goes, when I'm working and I look at these things, it really makes me happy. It helps my creativity flow. I feel abundant. I feel really happy and comfortable. He goes, so I like to look at them. And I'm like, well, all right, damn. Okay. So the next day I just left the shoes and I was like, okay, that makes him happy. And I thought about him happily smiling in his abundance with his sexy shoes. They were sexy shoes, if they were going to be leaving around, so then there's a morality. If they were his old tennis shoes, I probably wouldn't like screw that. But anyway, but that idea that your way is the right way. And if society especially espouses that, is that the right word? Holds that as a law.
Absolutely.
Like saving is the right thing to do.
Oh, the moral superior of saving.
Savers. Yeah, savers. I know, right?
But the good news is spenders can be just as morally superior. So have their and this is, the great thing about the internet age is you want to find confirmation that your way of living is the right way.
Bias
it's at your fingertips. Look, honey, here's this website that supports. I mean, I had someone reach out to me recently and said, hey, I want to do a blog on your website. Can I do, and I'll, even if I need to pay, I'll do it. Okay. I want to make money. So who are you? I look it up, and it's a sustainable living blog. And I'm not like anti-sustainable living, like,
right.
But they're primarily talking about like free-range chickens and goats and gardening at home and
right.
And living fiscally conservative. And like, I'm not anti that stuff.
Right.
But I'm like, that's not really congruent with my message and where I'm at either. Like, that is a way of living with money, and there is value in that. And I realize I'm gonna step in some toes, I mean, capitalism, money. I mean, we're just gonna blow some people up and make them angry. But I think
I don't know about that, because I think that basically what we're saying is really there might be the idea that you're on the right way to do it, but is being right worth your relationship? So that's really the bigger moral, right? Here, if like you stand on that high ground of I'm right and you're wrong, well, you're automatically, screwing up your sex life. So if nothing else, think about that. And then, you're the financial planner. So you wander in and tell your wife, like, this is the way we need to do our money because of this and that. Like, how well are you going to get along?
That's right. That's exactly right. And, I think the protective side of me is showing up and it's like, look, there are some things that I do think are very exploitative and abusive financially to do to people.
Yes.
Like, there's not like carte blanche permission to just do whatever the hell you want. Like, the decisions we make have impact.
Yes. Yeah.
But a lot of the decisions that we're sitting on our moral high ground are not of great consequence in the grand scheme of life. Like shoes.
Yeah. Like whether or not the shoes were sitting there or not, right?
Yes. Okay. I know there's that one listener who's thinking, but there's that laborer in Malaysia that got paid $2 for that $300 pair of shoes. And like, that's just not okay. Like, okay. Yeah, I get it.
Time for another show. Different show.
Different show. So, but I mean, our money values are deeply personal and they're meaningful. And so what I would ask people to consider is, where are you on this continuum of like kind of chaotic, disorganized values that make it hard to predict where you're coming from, and rigid like values? And can we move into some like middle zone where like there's some pretty clear, consistent values that people can count on you showing up around?
Well, I think that right or wrong comes back to the fear sometimes, right? Fear or abandon, those swing sides, that self-awareness. Like, why do you have that money value? Well, you pointed out that one guy was trying to stay connected to his dad or prove something.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
And then there's ignorance too, right? Nobody ever taught me. I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah, and that, this may be straying from a little bit from our topic, but I want to talk about that place too of we can be so financially self-deprecating. I mean, I don't know anything about money. That is not true. Everyone knows some things about money. So let's start there and figure out what do you know, and then let's be safe enough to question what we think we know.
I like that. Safe enough to question what you think you know. That follows into the right or wrong place, right?
Right, right.
So would that be like, because I've been with, I'm the spender. I was the spender. Because
Okay.
in my world, it's like, look, I'm probably going to die. The stuff that I did in my life, I wasn't living long enough. It's about experiential. I
Yeah.
didn't, I never looked at price tags. I didn't do anything like that. In fact, my friend that I told you about that asked me how much money people made,
Yeah.
she actually said to me, so Tanya, do you realize that if you were to, this is when people were making 10% on their money, they put it somewhere. If you put half the money you make that you wouldn't miss, because I know you don't even know how much it is, away, that in 3 years you could be retired on triple what most people make in a year. And I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
wow, that's so cool. Imagine that. I didn't know that. That's so fascinating. Didn't do anything with that. But just saying.
But that's so very, very powerful, right? Because it's like we think that if we show people like, hey, Tanya, did you know like if you ate more apples and
Right.
grain
Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
Snickers
Yeah.
bars, you would
Right.
lose weight?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, that's cool. Right. And so what happened was, and this goes into that values about right or wrong, my rightness was, I'm not living that lifestyle where you deprive yourself of every single thing in the world until you wait till you retire mode. That was
Right.
like not in my wheelhouse. I thought that was the most horrific thing. Live life now because it's short.
You
Literally.
don't promise tomorrow. Yeah.
Right. And so that was so that's why that information coming to me, like if that had been a partner saying that to me, it would have been, yeah, that's cool. And what?
So what?
Right. Who's right? Who's wrong on that? Now, had she said to me, maybe I wouldn't have listened. I was like 24 when I made my first million. Maybe I would have been like, oh, financial freedom. Do you realize, Tanya, that if you did this, you would not have to go to work at all, and you could be running around, globetrotting around the world, doing whatever you want? That would have made an impact.
Isn't it amazing? It's just the reframing, the same kind of underlying process with setting aside a portion of money.
Right. One was saving, and the other was benefit, financial freedom, do what you want.
Right.
This sounded like an adult. The saving part sounded like stodgy, stucky old adults that don't do shit.
Right.
And this part over here would have sounded like, oh my gosh, Mel, quit work now, like retire at 27 and like do whatever I want. Heck yeah, who wouldn't have done that?
That's exactly right. And that's the framing piece and the knowing the person you're talking to. That's so important. What motivates them?
Right, like the shoe
Think that are
conversation.
good for them. Yes.
So I would say that part of this then, instead of coming from that right and wrong perspective, which really doesn't get anybody very far anywhere, would be coming more from that. I'm curious about this.
Curiosity
Why do the
wins.
shoes? Why do you leave your shoes there? What does it do for you?
And you got to be able to ask it from a non-judgmental place, right?
I shouldn't say, what the hell are your shoes doing there?
Right. I mean, you can, but it's not going to get you very far, right? If you're gonna, I mean, this is like, I've been blown away as I've grown and matured as a therapist, what I can ask people that would be so off limits to anybody else, but because there's a trusting relationship and I ask from a place of genuine interest and care, they tell me.
Genuine interest and care and curiosity. So what would happen if people were to start their money conversations or sex with that attitude when approaching their partner?
They would have a lot more fun. They would enjoy themselves and they would find something neat and admirable about their partner. Because the reality is we partner with pretty incredible people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, humans are pretty damn incredible, just about every one of us. Yeah, maybe there's a few really rotten apples out there. But, I
mean, let's not discount those unincredible people out there.
But, I mean, by and large, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
yes. I mean, I know we live in a world that says there's a lot of bad, dangerous people out there that have all kinds of wacky diagnoses that we want to give people, and
yeah,
there's some truth in all of that. Okay, fine. But at the end of the day, they're a human,
right,
and
right.
they got some pretty cool stuff going on for them.
Well, and if even not, like, how much more can you learn about your partner when you set aside the right and wrong thing and you get curious and you ask from a place of genuine interest? Like, I remember the first person I met that was a big saver, right?
Oh yeah.
And he was, like, he would ask, oh, well, I would say, let's go out. And he'd go, oh, well, how much is that restaurant going to cost? I'm like, everything. That, to me, that was excessive. Okay.
Right, right.
But instead of being put off automatically, I decided to say, I want to know more about this. Like, what is this all about?
Right,
Because I was clearly opposite. I never looked at price tags, never looked at I didn't even balance my bank statement. I didn't ever overdraft. Somehow I had that weird calibration. But not that I haven't ever, but back then I
yeah,
was. And so
right,
that conversation, and then he was able to go, instead of looking at me like, you're scary with money,
right, right.
when I opened up and asked him about it, and he was telling me, and he was very passionate actually. And I found out that part of this passion was that, he wanted to help his family, in South America. And so there was this whole thing around this. It wasn't just that. He goes, I would love to take you to really fancy restaurants. He
Yeah,
said, but when I think about that, then I also think about this amount of money, my cousin could go to school.
right. There's clear trade-offs in his mind
Right.
that are
But
meaningful to
because,
him.
yeah, and if I hadn't been curious, and
Uh-huh,
then what happened was, he's like, well, why? He says, you just don't seem to care. And I said, oh, no, I care deeply. I
uh-huh,
care about this and this and this. And he was able to go, oh, so you don't care about fancy restaurants. I'm like, I could care less if we ever ate at a fancy restaurant.
uh-huh.
I'm all about experiential. Let's grab some stuff and hit a picnic at a cool place.
Sure. Right,
And so that opening, that transparency, that ability to be curious instead of him thinking I was wrong and me thinking he was wrong,
right,
led to that deepening that then led to more intimacy, led us to realize that we both actually had really similar values
right,
as humans when it was compassion and kindness,
right.
that type of thing. And that, yeah, that was so much more beautiful than just having this like, yeah,
And he's so stingy. He doesn't care
right.
about me. He won't treat me. What's wrong with him?
And I wasn't even that. I was just like, dude, seriously? Then I'll just fucking pay for it. Like, it don't have to be so like, let's talk
Right.
about this, right? I'll pay.
Yeah.
But then he was
Right.
also like, I don't want you to pay for everything, because he was in that integrity part of where he didn't
Right.
want that either.
That's
You know,
right.
so yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, that integrity piece is so important, and giving people the honor of paying for things is really important in intimate relationships. And if one partner has non-monetary ability for whatever reason or choice, being able to acknowledge other ways they contribute to balance the psychological scales is so important.
oh yeah, that would be right. Yeah, because I got shit about the fact that, if I decided that I was dating somebody and I wanted to see them dressed different, I'd just buy them a whole new wardrobe. And
Yeah.
I think there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, but that was the, I had used to,
Right.
um,
Right.
thing like that, or pay for everything, or say, let's go do this or whatever. Because to me, money was only a vehicle to get the entertainment or fun that I wanted,
Right. And
not realizing the implications
uh,
that
yeah,
I had with my partners.
that they weren't ascribing the same meaning to that process.
Right. They weren't just like, hey, cool. I mean, I did have one guy who was happy to be supported and thought that was really rocking and awesome.
Right. Until that game got old. Yeah.
Until he
That's
was
right.
on board, until I was like, I remember him sitting back one day in the living room, the house was a mess. And I'm like, yeah, so I'm working my ass off. You're sitting around, this house is a mess. What the hell's that? And he goes, well, I'm not the woman. And I'm like, okay, agreed. But that was a bad comment anyway. But like, yeah, what's your contribution? And he goes, well, I have to keep myself beautiful so we can have sex. And I'm like, yeah, suddenly turned off.
We're talking about trading sex as a currency and money as a currency. And it's like,
Exactly.
you provide and it's kind of, it's the, there's a trophy wife or trophy husband kind
Yeah.
of thing, right? It's like,
Yeah,
well,
he
my
was
contribution is to be beautiful. Like, well,
right. I had no problem with that. I didn't actually sign up for that part. I mean,
I
if I,
did.
because I've said in a few shows ago that I had a lot of marriages. Well, my marriage for my 60s, because I get married every decade, is a transactional one. I literally want a transactional relationship. I've had the soulmate, I've had the practical, I've had the companionship, I've had the stupid 17. I've had many different types of marriages. And so my one for my 60s is strictly transactional. It's like, what do you have? What do I have? How can we bind those up? I'm looking for dual citizenship, by the way, anybody listening to this. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, that's cool. But once again,
Well,
financially naked conversations.
yeah. Well, and I think getting clear about those expectations and what's that arrangement, and it is recognizing like what motivates people to marry is different.
Right.
And you got to get curious about that too if you're going to partner long term.
Right. Do you want to marry a man who's going to support you and your children so you don't work? Or do you guys agree on that? Or is it a double income household? We're buying a super, we're investing together, or else we're investing in whatever.
Right.
I think the biggest thing here was the right or wrong.
That's the big thing.
Circle back to that and give a how to. How do we start this process of uncoupling the right and wrong around finances?
I mean, we're kind of playing the free association game, so let's continue with that.
Okay.
Let's set this exercise up. Let's see. What your listeners may not know about me is I'm forever just creating random exercises. Like
Ed's rando exercises. It'll be a book coming soon.
Yes. Yeah, these are not, I mean, they're based in a lot of experience, right? And they're just an intuitive sense. So it's not completely random, but I feel right about money when
the right way to use money
is the right way to use money is, and then just start filling in the blank and let's see what you think.
And the wrong way to use money is
right. Go ahead and list all that out.
Yeah.
And then start looking for your contradictions.
Yeah.
Because that's what really starts messing with your partner's head, is when you have some internal contradictions. Wait, you said it's got to be this way, but then you do it this way. Which one is it? And the reality is we all have some degree of contradictions about what we should do and not do with money.
Absolutely. So, because we don't spend money unless it's on this new car that is really important to me.
Right. The exceptions to the rule. Right.
Yeah. That I see that a lot.
Oh, all the time.
That's not what's right and wrong. I treat myself. I work hard, so I get to treat myself. I don't need to tell you that I'm treating myself because I work hard for this money.
Oh, that's a core story.
That's a core story. It's everywhere. And that'll shoot your sex life to hell. I'll tell you that right now. That's a killer. So, okay. So you're going to, the right way to use money is, the wrong way to use money is. And then I'd like to add on top of that if you have a partner, once again, safe place, share that from a safe place, and then have a curious dialogue. And it starts with, I'm curious about, insert word here.
Right. Whatever's shown up there.
Yeah. And be curious about it. Like you're looking to understand, not looking to disqualify, to contradict, to reason with, rationalize, whatever. It's literally you just want to hear what they feel like about that, why they think that way, how that makes sense to them. Because ultimately, intimacy, and that's what Ed works towards, be like more intimate through these financial, literacy and financial education and intimacy, right? Financial intimacy being your thing, is to have these type of understandings. Because if we do that, if we have those talks, if we feel into that, we get a deeper understanding of our partner. We create safe places to have other dialogues that are needed. And when we do that, that connection that we all want, whether it's men or women, right? Men want connection sexually as well. They just don't really know it. They want a safe place as well. They just don't really know it till they get it.
Right.
having that requires that open vulnerability of the curious mind to deeply get to know the other person. And we all want to feel accepted. And when you can be curious, right, and hear somebody without criticizing them.
Well, I would just challenge maybe the final exercise for this whole deal is, as you're highlighting curiosity and compassion and judgment, right? I think in the interview series that we're completing now, people will need to go back and listen to this through the lens of what did I hear as Ed and Tanya went back and forth with each other about their money stories. So no, we're not in an intimate partnership with each other, but we've shown up for each other and shared parts of our vulnerable stories. And what did you hear Tanya or me say to the other person or not say? And how did we listen? Listen for that, because we model for you in each of these interviews how to be financially intimate with each other. We're not intimate partners, but we're financially intimate with each other in the sense that we started to open up and share parts of the story. If you didn't trust me or think that I could handle your stories, or that would be judgmental, you wouldn't have said many of your money stories, right? Like I wouldn't be on the podcast for one thing. Right? Like I wouldn't have been invited. So, but like in that sense of like, if you've never heard people talk honestly and openly and respectfully about their financial experiences and what they've meant to each other, go back and listen to these interviews now with that in mind.
I think that's a great idea. I think that adds another layer to that. And remember that financial intimacy, it applies to business partnerships as well. And
absolutely.
I've coached more business partners with blow up deals because they weren't able to be transparent or financially, they didn't understand each other's motivations around money in their partnership. And it was like getting divorced. It was like having a sexless marriage. It was 100% exactly the same.
Business partnerships are miserable. Because I think the added irony oftentimes in business partnerships, the expectation is you're joining together to increase your wealth and your income.
Exactly.
And so when that doesn't become the outcome of the business partnership, it's even more disappointing. Most people getting married are not married for the sole purpose of financially enriching their life. I realize some people do that. That's okay. If that's your thing, just be clear about it. But for most of us, we're marrying more for other purposes, and money becomes is part of that. So business. If you're in business, everything that Tanya just talked about applies to you and your business partner or partners.
100%.
Your business partner has a money history and a relationship with money too.
Do the exercises with your business partner. I mean, absolutely. 100%. I do that because, I think that this conversation, this series of the financial things, how, first of all, just powerful on its own. When it comes to sex, men's sex and Tantra, when it comes to that, these energy centers are your primal fuel sources for your life. And while they're blocked and traumatized and shut down and misunderstood and shamed and guilt and all of these other things on here, you will experience probably issues with both. Like you could be so financially successful, but not sexually successful. It happens. Like there's a block there. So, but if you're financially successful and sexually successful, and I don't mean scoring successful, I meant that you're actually intimate and connected sexually, you will find that everything blossoms out of that point. And so that abundance feeling, that feeling of not shame, that feeling of not having guilt, that feeling of not being in the right or the wrong, but being in a flow state with all of that is really a superpower in life. And that's what we want for all of you, right?
Amen. Absolutely. that is the mission. That's why I wake up in the morning and
and you'll find Ed's contact info on the blog. So you can always look him up, talk to him, ask him questions, find out what's going on with him. And appreciate it, Ed. Thanks so much for showing up. And
Tanya, this has been great. I know that I've grown just in having these conversations. I mean, that's part of the fun of doing these interviews is I am ongoingly growing.
Yeah, I hear
you. I mean, these are enriching conversations for me as well. So thank you for the opportunity, and look forward to partnering again in the future.
Absolutely. I'm going to go play on Ed's podcast. He has one too.
Oh, it's coming up. Oh, yeah. I got some questions for you, Tanya. Be
All right.
ready.
That's awesome sauce. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode.